Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. This is episode 32, otherwise known as Highbees 3, Rangers 2, Ramyer 1902. So I'm your host as always, Calvin, and the band are back together this week. We've got both Jack and Charlie joining us. How are we, lads?
I'm all right. As you can maybe tell, I'm got a different shirt on the day because at least one of my teams didn't bitterly disappoint me this weekend, eh? But I'm all right. The girls rescued it for the Highbees. Excellent result for the girls. But I still recovering for the United game, but happy that the old Hertha won. So that's why I've stuck the Hertha shirt on the day. But still the Hibs AF with the bucket hat, mate.
Good stuff. And Charlie, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Aye, the beard's back to be negative about Hibs again, so I hope you're ready for that. But apart from that, I'm doing good, mate. I had a week off last week, so feeling rested and ready to go.
Good, mate. Glad to have you back and looking forward to jumping into this one. We'll do a quick chat about the women's game first. So, Jack, usually your wee segment, obviously Hibs with a women with a 1-0 victory over Aberdeen. You were in attendance. Do you want to take it away, mate?
Aye, I'll start off here. First of all, I think 1-0 didn't do the game justice. I think that flattered Aberdeen 1-0. We were just fantastic from start to finish. Like the intensity we were playing with absolutely dominated them as well. And it definitely could have been like 4 or 5. But unfortunately, we just didn't get the rub of the green with some of our chances. We had a clear penalty shout denied as well. I think Amy Muir, there was a horrible foul on her. And we should have had a penalty for that. But no, it was a fantastic performance, like really, really good intensity, as I was saying. And that goal for Cav, or should I say the ginger Ronaldinho, excellent goal. Like she only scores bangers. I put it up on the podcast Twitter, obviously, when she scored, but does she only score bangers? The answer is aye. It was fantastic. Great sort of curling shot. Aberdeen keeper had no chance. Then I don't think, I can only really pick out one moment in the game when Aberdeen really threatened, and it was sort of towards the end. And even then, Gabby had that well under control. So Aberdeen never bothered. They were actually hardly at their own half for most of the first half. In the second half, they were sort of stuck in midfield. So it was an excellent performance. As I said, the intensity was just excellent, and the way we were, constantly winning the ball back, constantly communicating with each other. I think having Joelle back was absolutely huge. And then obviously we had Shannon McGregor back. After well over a year, I think it's something like 20 months, she said, out with injury. She was back with first team football and getting on, and it was great to see Shannon. And the amount of running she did when she came on, it was absolutely fantastic. It was like she'd never been away. So I'm really, really happy with that result, and it's what we needed after the Partick Thistle defeat as well. Just getting back to winning ways, especially against what is a decent Aberdeen side. So aye.
Good stuff. Just to add on to what you were saying, mate, and Dean, the head coach, in his post-match interview, he said that's the best performance so far of the season, taking into account pre-season and everything as well. Would you agree with that?
I definitely would. Like I said it before, the scoreline didn't do the game justice at all. I think that was our best performance. You look at the Stirling Uni game where we're expected to do that, and you look at the Spartans game. I think in the Spartans game, we had moments where we weren't sort of stepping off a bit, didn't have the foot on the pedal completely. But if we start to finish in that Aberdeen game, we just had our foot firmly on the pedal, and we were firmly in the driving seat. I said Aberdeen had no chance. I think they're very, very lucky to get away with just one. But like I said, we didn't get the rub of the green with some of our chances. And Colette, she could have been on a double, but unfortunately it just went rattling off the bar with that chance. And I think Alexa, she could have had a few goals on the day as well. So could Ailey Gallagher. I think Alexa, we'll talk about this later when it comes to a certain Mr. Nisbet, but I think they should be sitting Kevin Doonan, making him watch Alexa, and so that's what your work rate should be like. Alexa was just absolutely fantastic. Not just up front, but you're winning the ball back in midfield and everything, and then running with it and pinging it out to Amy and Colette. It was just fantastic, and it's great football. It was great football for us. So I definitely agree with Dean. It's our best performance by far this season.
One of the other things I was going to add in there as well was we're playing at Aberdeen Women next again in the Cup. Is that right?
Yeah, we're playing them in the League Cup. I think that's the quarter final that we're playing them in. Mm-hmm. So I think we know what they're all about, although it's a tough one because obviously we're going up to their place. They play at the Cove Rangers Stadium, and that is a tough wee place to go, as of course the guys know from when they played Cove in the League Cup group stage last season. Obviously it is a tough place to go. It's quite a horrible conditions up there a lot of the time, and it's no the best quality surface, I'd say, either. But I'm sure we'll beat Aberdeen in the Cup as well. But I think a performance like that against the champions of the second division is no bad at all, considering what happened against Partick. But I think Dean had us set up spot on. It was good to see Joelle back, like I was saying, and having Gabby back in goals. We talked about it last week. Gabby, we communicated more with Gabby. Like, Emily doesn't talk. And I'm not saying Emily's, I said it before, Emily's a great goalkeeper, but Gabby communicates. Gabby was up there shouting, as she always does. Come on, girls. If there was a bit where like we were maybe looking to having our heads down a bit, Gabby's like, come on, girls, we can do this. Just need to go again and everything like that. So when a move broke down, Gabby was always shouting, come on, girls, like, we'll get the next one and everything like that. I think that's fantastic, because that's what you need your goalkeeper to be doing. And Joelle, Joelle, proper captain's performance at Joelle as well, with all the instructions she was given. So I think that definitely helped having those two back, and we were really, really attacking as well. So obviously we've learnt the lessons for the Partick game. We were just, like I said, I've said it so many times, but the intensity was top class.
And just looking forward to the Aberdeen game in the Cup then, the only sort of negative that Dean could put his finger on was the fact that we didn't score more goals. Is there anything we need to change going away to face them up in Aberdeen, or do we just stick with the same system? Is there any players you'd like to see come into the squad? A bit of rotation, or do you think consistency is key for this one as well?
I just think, like, I've said it so many times, I just want to see more of Tony play, because that game she played against Rangers, she was fantastic. And I don't know why we've brought in a player for such a good league in terms of the Austrian league and, kept her on the bench. I just don't understand it at all. But she's an excellent player. I hope to see Tony playing. And obviously we've got Hamilton next in the league as well, which I think they're the other newly promoted side. They came second in the SWPL2. And I think they'll provide a tough test. We've got a former Hibs player in there, Hannah Scott, who's a decent player. I'm sad I didn't see more of her at Hibs last season. So hopefully she doesn't cause too much problems. Then, funnily enough, at Hamilton, my former PE teacher, Miss Evans, Lauren Evans, plays for Hamilton. So hopefully she doesn't cause us too many problems. I'm still annoyed at her for telling me off in PE a bit too many times. I wasn't the best in PE. So hopefully she doesn't score against Hibs to get revenge on me for being a wee arsehole when I was in her PE class. But
I'm laughing at you wanting Tony to play, because it's exactly what you said in the last podcast as well. And then obviously that was quite well received with the wee inside joke of the Tony Macaroni and that. That was quite a good laugh online last week, mate. So that was really well received. And just as well, to give you a wee shout out, you've been doing some really good work on your own YouTube channel as well, and you managed to sit down and have a wee chat with Tony, didn't you?
Yeah.
Want to tell the people where they can find that?
So you can find it on my YouTube channel, Jack Gillis 1875, and I was talking to Tony about what's it like playing for us, and then also a bit about her time in Austria, because as I mentioned there, she's played in the Österreicher Frauen Bundesliga with Wacker Innsbruck. So ask her what it was like being an American in Austria. So you can check that out on my YouTube channel, and I greatly appreciate it. It was a great laugh. Tony's an absolute riot to talk to. She's amazing. So you can check that out over on my YouTube if you want. But thanks for the plug there. I was a bit shameless self-promotion there, but
mate, it's a great wee interview. I enjoyed listening to it. It's only about 30 minutes long as well, so it's good just to listen to it and catch up and see, a good wee insight into the women's team again for you, Jack. So I appreciate the work you're doing, and it was great to great analysis. And you'll be back next week as well, reviewing the Aberdeen preview.
I think we've got so Aberdeen, and then just one last wee thing is the Hamilton game, just for any fans, has been postponed due to the international break. So that'll be played in the midweek at New Douglas Park. So if any of you are out west, I know there's a few Hibbies that live out west, or you're planning on, or you've not got any plans on that night, it'll be at New Douglas Park. So make sure you head along and support the girls, because it'll be another big 3 points if we can beat Hamilton. And like I said, hopefully Miss Evans doesn't get revenge on me by scoring against us, and hopefully Hannah Scott doesn't cause us too much problems. So so make sure you head along to New Douglas Park if you can.
Jack, if we're doing self-promotion, mate, you may as well tell everyone your good news for last week as well.
Of course I forgot.
Yes, of course. He's cheating on us. He's cheating on us.
I'm cheating on Hibs. But to be fair, it's Edinburgh's second best team. Edinburgh City. It's Edinburgh's second best team, Edinburgh City. There's something that's been in the pipeline for a wee while, but I'm sure everybody knows Dave Armstrong, that obviously worked for Hibs TV. He does a lot of work with the Edinburgh City women's team, and invited me along to work with him at the Livingston game, their game against Livy. They liked what I did with the match reports and the interviews, so I'm now officially part of the Edinburgh City women media team as a media assistant and match reporter. So it's great to get such a fantastic opportunity with Edinburgh City. So I've got to thank them. They're a great group of girls. Fortunately, they lost yesterday against Ayr United 3-2. But a great group of girls, been really, really welcoming, and it's great to get such a fantastic opportunity. I'd also like to say thank you to everybody at the academy, Joelle and Callum, who gave me the opportunities, because without the academy, I wouldn't be getting to this point. So thank you to everybody there, and thank you to everybody at City for the opportunity. But it's great to be getting in with a decent club. They play in the SWF Championship South, which is the women's third division, and they play at Albion Park. So anybody that fancies coming along and catching a bit of more women's football outside the Hibs, then you can come and watch Edinburgh City at Albion Park. It's free entry at Albion Park in Broxburn, so if you want to come along, you're more than welcome. And it's great football played, and like I said, it's a great group of girls at Edinburgh City as well. So I'm really, really happy to get that position.
Aye, good stuff, mate. Thoroughly deserved as well. Thoroughly deserved. So we're very proud of you, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
Coming to a sort of more negative side or a disappointing segment here. Obviously, at the weekend, lads, it was Hibs 0, Dundee United 3. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the game because I wasn't feeling well, thankfully. You two, I think, managed to make it, though, am I right?
Unfortunately, aye.
Aye. Right, lads, let's start with the lineup, because when the lineup came out, I thought, aye, that's not bad, actually. That's pretty good. There's a few that I got wrong. I didn't realise Paul McGinn wouldn't be playing. Aye, and I didn't realise Murphy would come back in, but I'll just run through it. It was Macy in goals, obviously. Cadden, Wood, Hanlon, Doig, Doyle, Hayes, Newell, Boyle, Alan Murphy, and Nisbet. So a pretty strong starting 11. What were your thoughts when you seen that?
I thought it was, a good strong lineup. On paper, it's a good team to go and beat Dundee United. There's not really many changes when we played them the other week there, but I thought it was good. It was nice to see that Nathan Wood was getting a start. I'm sure we'll come on to that in a wee bit, how I thought he done, but I thought it was good. Like you say, Calvin, I thought Paul McGinn might have been back in. He's been out for a wee while, probably getting a rest after being heavily criticised. And for my opinion, rightfully so as well, because he was probably the weakest link in that team from the start of the season. But no, I thought the team was strong, but obviously just never turned up.
Me too. I didn't have any complaints about the lineup. I thought it was probably the strongest we could have went with, and amongst our injuries and things like that. And I felt fairly confident with that lineup. It looked like quite a positive lineup, quite attacking. Nice to see Murphy back in there as well. What about yourself, Jack?
I mean, I just echoing everything that Charlie said, to be honest. Like, I was really, really happy with that. I mean, I'm not Murphy's biggest fan, and especially after Saturday as well. I've not really, because I think Murphy's not lived up to what he could be as a player with us. But I thought it was great to see Wood start. And I thought, that's a really strong team, and we're more than capable of going out there. And I just think, they didn't show up. And I think, to me, we'll talk about it maybe later, but I think it was just a sense of apathy for a lot of players, to be honest. But I was actually really happy with how we set up. And I just think it wasn't to be. Obviously, like the boys just didn't give it their best effort. But I was really, really happy with that lineup. Looked at it and went, you know what, we could take United here, definitely. So I can't really add any more to that. I was really happy with the lineup.
So looking happy with the lineup, I definitely thought that was enough to beat Dundee United. I didn't think much of Dundee United before the match, to be honest with you. I thought we would have won that quite comfortably, or fairly reasonably comfortable. Do you think we underestimated Dundee United?
Aye, we did. I think we did. Like, honestly, I think there was, and I was actually speaking to a Dundee United fan on the train back that I know quite well, because it's a girl that used to go to my school's mum. It's a United fan, and she met me on the train, and I was saying, like, we just underestimated you, and we did. I think United are a decent side, and it proved that the football we play at home has been found out, because obviously you play against Livingston, you play against St Mirren, play against St Johnstone. Okay, they're not exactly quality sides. And we didn't beat St Mirren, but we beat Livingston and St Johnstone, but we got found out, and I just think we did underestimate either. Like you said, there was just a big sense of apathy there. That's what I saw anyway. There was like a big sense of apathy for the players, which I don't like at all. If we tried and you get beat, then okay, that's all right. We got beat. When you didn't try and get beat, it's no nice. It's no nice for us, the fans, because we're sitting there, we're sitting out in the cold. I was freezing my backside off to watch. I think I'm going to say it now. It's one of the worst performances I've seen under Jack Ross, and it's one of the worst home performances I've seen probably since we got relegated by Hamilton. If I'm going to be honest, it's definitely, and I know there's loads of derby defeats in there as well, but I think in terms of just like how we played and how uninterested we looked, even in that 3-1 derby loss before lockdown, we looked more interested in that game. Even when we got beat by Hamilton in the playoff, we looked more interested. So I definitely think it was really disappointing, and it sort of harked back to sadder times. I think it was, to me, very Fenlon and / Butcher-like in terms of how uninterested the players were. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we learn from it. That's the main thing that's got to be taken out of this. Is we better learn from it, because you can't be doing performances like that with what our aims are this season. Because if we don't get European football, then it's no on. But I think we'll learn from it. But I'm struggling. I can, like you two will know, and everybody that follows me on Twitter, I always try and look for positives out of house performances, and I try to always see the brighter side of things. But even I can't see a brighter side to that at all. Because I'm going to be honest, just turn up. If we turned up and got beat 3-0 because United played well, okay. But we didn't. We let them, if you see what I mean. If we'd actually challenged them, we'd actually sort of put a bit of pressure on. I don't think they would have played as well in that game, and that's just my honest opinion on it. But that's all I've got to say for that respect.
Chaz?
I think first of all, I want to say well done to Dundee United, and that's I'm very complimentary about opponents, but I think the way they set up was exactly how to beat Hibs. Because when Martin Boyle got in the ball, they kicked him off the park, and it wasn't one. Declan Glass was the one I remember for the first half that completely wiped him out. But then next time Boyle got in the ball, Freeman was on him. Then Harkes was on him. They set up excellently to nullify our only attacking threat, and that's the biggest bugbear I've got with Hibs, is that Martin Boyle's our only attacking threat out the wing. And it's the ball we go every time. And if teams find that out, then we've nothing. And the same on Saturday. But I think Dundee United set up well, mate. I don't know if we underestimated them, to be honest. I think we just went into set to play the game that we played the other week there. But they just turned up and done what they needed to do and nullified their attacking threat, and they've come away with a 3-0 win. So
yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, mate. It's interesting what you said about Boyle being our only attacking threat, because I think I said in the podcast months ago that this season, we were going to have to be quite versatile in terms of the way we set up and almost have different styles of play and a different game plan for different teams, because I think we noticed that very early on that even in the European games against Santa Coloma and all that, Boyle was our outball every time. And it was getting this and a lot of teams will be snuffed that out. And it's like Jack says, I think you've got Murphy on the other side, who's also a good player, but for me, he's missed too many big opportunities, like the one in the semi-final. A few other ones he's missed in that as well. I just don't feel he's as confident, or maybe it's obviously not at the peak of his career. Nisbet, he's a bit of a hit and miss. Like you say, it is a wee bit worrying that he does seem to be our only outball, and it does seem to be that a lot of teams have already sussed that out. And then the fact the media and that as well, the negativity that they've had, Yogi Hughes saying he was a diver and things like that, and Sportsing and that haven't helped us either. So anytime he goes down, he doesn't really get much nowadays, I don't feel. So to take that into account as well, again, it's a wee bit worrying, slightly worrying. So where did it go wrong then?
I think I'll start and say, we've talked about it, and I think it went wrong for me that it was the usual. You know what I mean? It was the usual with the 3 goals, especially I think that their third goal, it was like you can't, it was coming. Cadden doesn't go with his man. Honestly, that annoys me. It's defending 101. Matt, you stay with your guy you're marking. Let's him cross that ball in. There we go. I thought, how many times we conceded a goal like that? And the whole point of dropping McGinn or giving McGinn a rest was to stop that from happening. But I think McGinn probably would have stopped that, because towards sort of the games he stopped playing, in the Livingston game, I said that McGinn was actually improving and actually had a good game. And even against St Mirren, he had a decent game. McGinn, he got his goal and he actually put in a solid performance, and he got a bit more of the old McGinn. But Cadden, I just don't understand. You stick with your runner, mate. Honestly, just stick with him and try and block it. But didn't we just seem to have some sort of allergic, we just have some sort of allergy to blocking crosses. You know what I mean? And then
I thought Cadden played quite well against St Johnstone and things like that. I thought he was one of the ones that was really, really trying. Like his heat didn't go doing all that. I always thought he was trying against St Johnstone, but obviously it's different if you're watching it on the telly, mate. I watched it on the telly this weekend.
Aye, yeah, like I said, I just didn't think. And then the other 2 goals, I mean, their first goal was a carbon copy, more or less, of the goal Santa Coloma scored against us in Andorra. Like, nobody's, like, they're all standing off the United boy, gives them too much space. He shoots, he goes to the back of the net. And, I heard a lot of folks sitting around me going, oh, Macy should have tried better to save that. How you as a goalkeeper going to react to your defence leaving you for dead like that?
By the way, I counted it. There are 7 Hibs players back defending that ball. 7 Hibs players
and
behind the ball.
Nobody's going on him.
Goalie.
Nobody's going on him. And that's what annoys me. It's defending 101. You didn't give a boy that much space. Macy, bless him, he tried to save it. You could see he tried his best. He's at full stretch. No going in. And I think, I heard a lot of folks say he should have tried better. His defence shouldn't be leaving him like that.
I'll tell you something though.
Exposed like that. And then their second goal was quite well worked. Quite a well worked move, I've got to say. But the third goal and the first goal were mistakes we made before. And like I said, more or less at the first goal, especially, was a carbon copy of what we conceded against Santa Coloma and Andorra. So, or at least in my view, that it was a carbon copy. But like I said, that's what you've got to do.
What do you think in terms of? Sorry, Jack, just to interrupt you. See, talking about their first goal, I think that's what Hibs don't do enough of.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's almost the same as the one Brophy scored. Just have a shot on goal. Someone hit the ball. It's like almost going back to the sort of Fenland days as well. Like try to walk the ball in. I'm not saying we're in the Fenland days. I'm not saying that at all, because we're in a much better place. And listen, I think this is just it is one of those freak results that happens. But I do think that we try and walk the ball into the net far too often, rather than someone just putting a bloody foot through it. And you can see how it pays off.
Exactly. But I think, like I said, that United goal just was, I think who's going, and I was sitting there with David saying, who's going to, somebody put a foot in, or else it's going to end up in the back of the net. And then look at what happened. But I think, we concede too many goals like that. And I think once or twice it's a mistake and you're in for it. When it's about the 7th or 8th time, you go, this is something that seriously needs to be worked on. And that's my views on it. But 3 goals, well, I wouldn't say 3. The second goal, like I said, was very well worked for United. But 2 goals, certainly, that we've made mistakes before and are easily preventable. So that's my view on it.
I don't think their last goal should have counted.
I don't know, because of where I sit.
Nah, it's because it's a sweaty, mate. They were banned from my house growing up. Kevin used to play FIFA. You're not allowed to do that when you're running in and you just pass it across and tap in. That's a sweaty. That was banned from our house. Many an argument happened over that in my house, I tell you, growing up.
Tell you what about that. Tell you about that goal. It's fair play to United, like the skill. I mean, he sold Cadden up the river there, didn't he?
Right, you know they pumped us. Well and truly pumped us.
Yeah, they did. And fair, but all I've got to say is, fair play to them. I sort of didn't mention that earlier, but fair play to them. They played some good football. I actually quite like their manager. Especially after he did the show the racism and the red card thing after that with Ross County. So I have a lot of respect.
What that was about.
I have a lot of respect for him, and that Yendo Fuchs, what a player! It's very rarely. I'm a bit like Charlie. It's very rarely I compliment the opposition, but that Fuchs, what a player!
He's also out of contract in the summer. If Ron Gordon's listening to this podcast,
if you're listening, get him signed. Honestly, I'd love to see him in a Hibs shirt, because he is a player we need. We need that sort of player, but he's fantastic, Fuchs. Absolutely fantastic. He's a great player, and United are very lucky to have him.
Are you ready for the negativity? Come on.
Hit us.
I'm winding up for it. Right, I've got 3 main points to cover about this game. First one is there is absolutely no leadership in Paul Hanlon as a Hibs captain, and I'm going to get slated for that on Twitter, and I'm going to take it. But Saturday is the prime example of that. He's a good player, right? I'll give him his due. He's a good player, good servant to Hibs, whatever. But there was a countless number of times on Saturday that I looked around and Dundee Utd are walking the ball, and Hanlon's like, "Where is the ball?" And he's no got urgency, like get up. And in their third goal, he tells Nathan Wood to go away him, and they both get pulled out of position, and Dundee Utd are in for the third goal.
Yeah,
it's like, what's going on here? Like, captain fantastic, apparently. Some people call him on Twitter. Captain shite, in my opinion. But you can edit that out.
Sorry, no, that's.
And listen, I'm not going through this editing every 2 minutes stuff you say that you didn't mean to say. So we're just rocking it, because that takes up too much of my time, lads.
I'll start that bit again.
No, just go with it. Just go with it.
All
just
right,
go with
all
it,
right,
just go
all
with
right.
it.
It's a strong
Aye.
opinions podcast.
It's a strong opinion,
Aye.
all right. But to be honest, right, I didn't think we've got leaders in that team. And Saturday is another prime example of that. I think had McGregor played, we're probably sitting with a different result, and that's no a thing on Wood. But I think the game was too big for, like, not the game. We're playing Dundee United. Like, it's not a derby. You know what I mean? But I think Wood was maybe a bit shell shocked with how quick the game was. To be honest,
No, I do agree with that. Like, and just to
Aye.
sort of interrupt, but I was saying that to David. Like, me and David were sitting talking about it. And I said, your championship in England's like a completely different pace of game for what you play up here. And I think that did catch him out a bit. But one thing I was going to say, picking up on your captain point, is, I'm going back to the women's game here, is Joelle. Like, Joelle is always telling the girls what to do, and rightly what to do. And that's it. I didn't see enough talking with the lads against United. I didn't hear enough talking. And people say, obviously, you shouldn't compare men and women's football. But and when it comes to that, it's just like 101. If you're a captain, you need to talk. And I think Joelle's really good at that. Joelle's really good at telling the girls what to do. Whilst Paul, I do like Paul as a player, but I just don't think, like, he needs to communicate more. He's just walking, standing about like, what am I doing? You know, it should be talking, always talking, and that's what I like about the girls compared to the men's team.
That was what was drilled into me as a young football player. I started playing football for a few years when I was 5, and I got told, if you're in centre back, you talk with the team, because you're the last point to call before they get through to the keeper. And I think when you look at, I didn't like comparing players, but if you look at Rob Jones, or if you look at other players like that we've had, Saul Bamba, I can remember him vividly shouting every game. Ken, and it's no hard to be like, just to say like, right, no, step up or step back. Ken, it's an easy wee shout, and I think that's what Paul Hanlon misses for his game, and that's what frustrates me about him. Because I really wish he would, and it's probably a pernickety thing to pick up on, but I just want him to be more vocal.
It's a really interesting debate, that, because we've had the debate a few times on the podcast, and there's a if you sort of, I feel like if you voiced an opinion on Hanlon in terms of captaincy and that, like, it's almost like the mainstream view is, if you have a negative opinion of the way he plays, then you're wrong. But I think you can be critical. I think one thing as well, like leadership. I mean, you're 3-0 down, and the team, they look defeated. They looked beat, well and truly beat, even after the first one.
Yeah,
you know, there was no bounce back ability, and no one saying, Christ, like, no one, like, for me, I'd have my eyes on the league table and thinking, Christ, we're slipping. You want another 3 points here? Surely Dundee United at home. We made them look really, really good, I would say. But yeah, the Hanlon debate's an interesting one, and I think, you know, if you share Charlie's opinion, I do think you'll be on the receiving end of a lot of Hibs fans' disapproval, really.
And I'm willing to have that, like, conversation with you. Like, it's just, Ken, it's just a bit like, and I think you're right, mate. You there are very many views on Hanlon. I think he's a good football player. I just didn't think he's captain material, and that's my opinion, and I respect other people's, Ken. The next point I was going to say,
you better be careful Hanlon doesn't come out that glass door behind you, by the way, knock you out.
Well, next point I was going to say. Oh no! Oh no!
The stadium, you know.
I wish. Second, and it's going back to touch on what Jack was saying about the butcher days, but I counted 5 times when we're 2-0 down where we get the ball to the middle of the park, then we turn back on ourselves.
Oh my God!
How
many times?
How are you meant to, like? I get it. You start a game with the keeper, but it's so frustrating. You're 2-0 down, man. Just attack them. We didn't do it often enough. We didn't just drive the ball, man. And
do you know what I think I've thought about that,
so
Charlie? Is I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, but see, now teams are coming to play Hibs. Obviously, no, Hibs are a good team, and they'll be probably pretty lucky to take a point off of us at home. I've seen that from Livingston. I've seen it from St Johnstone, and I've seen it from who else have we played at home so far? St Mirren. And for me, all these teams that are coming to East Road, they've got 11 men behind the ball.
Yeah,
the whole time. They're very, very, very hard to break down. I think we're really struggling with that at the moment. and that's why like balls are going back the way. And I'll be honest with you, mate, it's so frustrating for me to watch as well. And it comes back to that original point, the point I made there about their first goal. Just someone off a shot.
Aye.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so frustrating to watch. I find that so frustrating.
It's like we get to the edge of the box and like, right, where's the next pass? Like there was a few times where folk are trying to thread the Scott Allen ball through to the strike, but just have a shot. It just frustrates the life out of me, like that we didn't just. And on the subject of shot, Kevin Nisbet, what about him? How lazy is he? That's the last point I want to make about that game. I am so frustrated with him now, and I think my patience wearing too thin with a striker that doesn't try.
Doesn't look bothered. You know what I mean?
And he's missing his big pal Doige. I get it, because Doige brings the best out of him, because Doige does that work. I think I appreciate Doige a lot more that he's not on the team because of injury. I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but I think the work that Doige does is going a bit missed now, and I think Nisbet on Saturday just didn't try, and he lost the ball almost every time, and he just had no desire to win it back, and that's no what I want for a striker at Hibs. If you're not willing to put the effort in for 90 minutes, first transfer offer that comes in, he can go, in my opinion. Yeah. And I would be happy if it's someone offering $1 million for him, they can go. I didn't want a player like that at my club. So
I agree.
I'm just frustrated about him. I think he's a good goal scorer. We saw that at Ibrox, but like he just doesn't do it. He just doesn't do it often enough. And it's like games like that where, we're at home. Our home form was cracking last year, and our home form's very, very shaky now. So I think we need Deutsch fit again. I know the talk is that he'll be back for the semi, which would be brilliant.
That's a big boost if he does.
But there's a lot of games to play until that semi.
Yeah, there is.
We've got Aberdeen next week. We've got Celtic midweek. Then we've got Livingston, St Johnstone, teams like that we might be in and about that end of the table at this rate. We then start scoring goals, and there's no goals coming.
You go, mate. I was just going to say, I seen a tweet out on Twitter, and someone said that give credit to whoever it was that said it, but they said Kevin Nisbet was given major Flo Canberry vibes.
You know what?
I get it.
I do get it. Right, it's the arrogance to me. You know what I mean? And I'll come back to it again. But like Alexa in the game against Aberdeen, you've got to your striker. It's about more than scoring goals. You've got to do a bit of work. Alexa, she was going back. She was trying to win the balls in midfield and everything, and that's what you want out of your striker. Nisbet just struts about the place like he a care in the world. I do get the Flo Canberry vibes of I'm better than this club, and that's what you get the feeling of. I'm better than this. I tell you what, Kevin, if you want to go and join Flo at Sheffield Wednesday in the mid-table in League One, then be my guest, pal. You can do it because he thinks he's going to get a big move to England. He's going to get a big shock down there because they won't wear that attitude. They will not wear that attitude in England. It's too competitive in the champion. Obviously, I can tell from what he's been talking about in the sort of clubs looking at him that he wants lower half the Premier League or top half the Championship.
You didn't get that if you didn't score.
Exactly. You don't score goals and you have that attitude, you can forget it because it's far too competitive at that end of the Premier League table and that end of the Championship table for him to be acting like that. And I tell you, he's going to be one of these players that if that does happen, then you know what league actually I think Nisbet would be quite suited to, and a lot of folk will probably like pillory me for this, but I think he'd be suited to somewhere in Spain because that's where you get that sort of attitude of I'm better than everybody else. Somebody like RCD Mallorca or somewhere like that. That's where Nisbet would get on quite well because every Spanish football's full of these arrogant strikers that strut about like they own the park. But I'm getting frustrated. I always like to give players chances, but I'm fed up with it. Honestly, I'm like you've got to try. I miss Doige so much because Doige is your workhorse, typical workhorse striker. You know what I mean? Doige works for every ball. He gets things going, and he brings out the best version of Nisbet, and I do get that. But at the same time, Nisbet should be bringing the best version out himself. And I want a player that'll work. Now, I'll accept if you go on a wee run and no scoring goals, but you're still working. But see, when you're just looking petty, attitude, I can't be bothered today, then no. As I said, I agree with Charlie. Just take the first offer that comes in for you in the winter window because you know why? We bring Mueller in, we maybe get another striker, another forward. Nisbet's no needed. And we've got a fully fit Doige. As simple as that.
I think one of the things that I've noticed, and we mentioned before the podcast sort of started here, was the fact that you don't seem to see the same intensity from him. And the best example I can give to the listeners is when we played Motherwell away last season and we won 3-0. And it's the 95th minute, and Nisbet does really well to win the ball back in the Motherwell half to then go ahead and get, set up Stephen McGinn for the third goal. And it's like that level of work rate at that time. The match is already won. We're 2-0 up. Do you know what I mean? It's already won. He doesn't need to put in that extra bit of energy. Gives that extra 10% for us. But he does it. And I just haven't seen enough of that from him. And I kind of felt like him being away with Scotland and that, he would have came back and he would have thought, God, I've been in amongst like McTominay at Man United and McGinn at Aston Villa, Big Lyndon Dykes and all that, and Che Adams, like all these players, just thinking, I want to get to their level. Like I'm going to come back and I'm going to get my all for Hibs and have a really good season here and maybe move on with everyone's best wishes. Do you know what I mean? But I just didn't see that from him on Saturday, and I think it's a lot of folk listening might think we're having a go at him, but we're no, because even the players are getting frustrated with him. Like I showed you on the telly a wee bit, Cadden having a go.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Cadden's trying to go onto his feet and he's not happy. He's greeting because it's not exactly where he wants it.
Aye, and that says it all. Like if you're a striker and you like put it there, you've got to move to there, Ken.
Aye,
or you've got to be on your toes in case the ball goes or takes a deflection. Ken, you've got to be ready and to move. And I just didn't see often enough in this, but to be honest, and that's really frustrating because I think there is a player there. I just didn't think the player is what we are really needing up top. I think. But to be fair, we'll probably come on to it. But there's no other options, is there?
We'll come on to that in a wee minute. I was just going to pull you back to have a quick chat about the bench. Like you're saying, there's no other options. Looking at the bench, it's pretty weak.
It is.
Jamie Gullan must be wondering himself why he got a shot here.
The thing is, right, and I did see somebody say this on Twitter, but Jack Ross clearly doesn't rate the laddie, and that's no for us to say because we're not the manager. I would like to see Gullan get his chances, but if the manager doesn't like him, that's we've got to accept that.
Right. This is time to pull this out. I've done a wee bit of research, right? I'm off this week, so I've had a wee bit more time to
too much time on your hands, in other words.
Yes. Right. So Jamie Gullan, right? A lot of people are shouting for Jamie Gullan to come on, and a lot of folk are saying, why is James Scott came on the pitch before Jamie Gullan? So I've had a look at them. Jamie Gullan was at Rafe Rovers, his last club, on loan from Hibs from 2019 to 2021, right? 40 games he played, he scored 13 goals, right? You've got James Scott from his time at Motherwell from 2017 to 2020, 36 games and 4 goals. And then his time at Hull from 2020 to present date, 26 games and 2 goals. So I think it's a wee bit of I think it's where is evidence to suggest that these guys are going to fire in the goals for us? Because to me, I think I don't think Gullan's had a real crack at the whip. I don't think he's had a great shot at trying to play for Hibs, but Ken, what do you do?
He must not be training. Like there must be something that he's doing wrong in training, or
none of them are brilliant goal scorers by those stats.
No, there's obviously a reason he's not getting a game. And like Jack says, we are no Jack Ross. We didn't see him training day in day out, whatever. But there's part of me thinking like, what Jamie Gullan must just be happy to sit on that bench and pick a wage up. Like Ken, what is he? He must be what 22, 23. Like you're getting to that stage of your career where you need to press on a wee bit, and I don't know if there's talks in the pipeline for him to go maybe on loan again in January, but Ken loan's not going to do anything because you're coming back to the same scenario after the summer. So I think, as much as it pains me to say it, because I think there is a player there, I think it's probably very, very close to us cutting our losses with him, to be fair. But
even teams like St Johnstone have got more depth at that position than us.
Exactly.
I mean, they've got Chris Kane, they've got Stevie May, they've got O'Halloran that can come on. Do you know what I mean? Like, look at our depth.
Aye, and I think that was the biggest frustration for me in the summer. Anyway, is like we never really we brought in James Scott, but we never really brought anyone else in.
Ken Motherwell and that as well. Like Ken Tony goes for fun now. Like,
and Van Veen's doing the business. And if you look at Hearts, like they've got a few options. Celtic have got a few. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers have options, but Dundee United have got options as well. And it's like teams about us have all got options, and we have Kevin Nisbet, James Scott, and Jamie Gullan. If Doidge is now, but
it's funny for me though, because I feel like the striking department at Hibs is something we've been weak over the last couple of years. Like, Doidge is good, Nisbet is a good player
when he wants to be.
Aye.
I mean, they didn't show up in the big games for me though. Kim, right, fair enough, he's just scored against Rangers now. I'm talking about the Hearts games, the semi-finals. That's where I want my players. That's where Ken, the big players, should stand up and be counted. And for me, I mean, look at that. Canberry, he didn't do it. You know,
McNulty didn't do it.
Here. Who else is
didn't do it? You know, I was going to say McLaren, but to be fair, he had these moments.
McLaren done it against the Huns.
Actually, you got to go back to McLaren and sort of Simon Murray were the last two I can think of that were actually decent.
Even before that, you're talking Griffiths and O'Connor.
Cummins, Stokes,
in
the Championship.
Cummins, aye, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? I think we've been a wee bit starved in that department for the last couple of years. Like,
we have been.
You've got to ask yourself the question though, eh? Like, why did we not go in for Lawrence Shankland? Come on.
I know. That's one that I was shocked at. Like, he's doing quite well, even though his team's bottom of the league in Belgium. He's doing quite well out there. And
maybe that's why we never went in for him.
There you go. Relegation battle at Beerschot, but he's doing quite well. In Belgium, to be honest, technically, on paper, is a higher standard league than Scotland. It's well above this SPFL in the league rankings in Europe. So you got to wonder, why do we not go in for a player? But I think Shankland is a special player. And if you partnered him up with Nisbet or Doidge, you definitely would have been getting something good there. But I just think, we didn't recruit well enough in that department. And I just think you've got so many good players in Scotland to go in for. And I think the thing is, and I think this is part of the reason, you know, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs, and I'm not going to comment on things like this, but my Maffey left because I think what Ron Gordon wants, you can tell face some of the transfer rumours and some of the partnerships that we've been making, that Ron Gordon wants us to be looking at Eastern Europe, South America, because he knows those areas. Like Eastern Europe, it's a gold mine. I can tell you that right now. Eastern Europe, especially leagues like Bulgaria, Serbia, Bosnia, they're Russia even, or Ukraine, they're gold mines.
Aye, but how do they adapt to the Scottish game?
And they do have I know this because I watch Russian Premier League, Ukrainian Premier League. It's very physical. It's more physical than Scotland. Also, when you've got these shaved head, black t-shirt ultras on your back, I think you can deal with some wee jambo going. I think when you're getting flares and coins pelted at you in the back arse of Kiev, I think you can deal with a wee jambo annoying you every 5 seconds. But no, I think that these players have enough for the Scottish game, and going to South America, again, another gold mine. I said Ron Gordon knows those leagues. He grew up in Peru. He talked about it on that K Galasso podcast, watching teams like Estudiantes and everything in Peru. You know, he knows in Colo Colo. He knows those leagues because he's shopped around there before. And I think that's what we need, because I think you bring these players into Scotland, and I know people say, oh, South America, Ulysses de la Cruz. It's no go there. But I think these players have the potential in Scotland, and I do think so. These players in Eastern Europe, because like I said, these Eastern European leagues are gold mines, and a lot of other leagues have cracked onto it. You've seen the Championship in England; they've bought a few players in for the likes of Ukraine or Belarus, and other leagues in Europe like Germany, Portugal, Spain. They've all cracked onto it as well. So I think it's definitely a market that we should be looking at, and they have got some very decent, as we learned with Aika, they've got some very decent players out there.
It's definitely something that we need to address. Well, maybe even pre-contract in January for somebody that's out of contract in the summer. But I think we need something else up top.
We need a striker. We need something to get something that says we're here. We mean business, because the depth isn't good enough. I think at that position in particular.
It goes back to that. It goes back to that point I made earlier, though. There's still loads of games to play until January.
Oh no, well, that's why we're struggling to kill games off.
And even when we're even 2-0 up, you're if we are 2-0 up in a game, you're thinking to yourself, if they score, they're back in it.
Exactly.
And that's the way football goes. But I'm just not confident with this. There's something about this Hibs team this season that if we go 1-0 up, I'm we're not winning this. Ken? It was the same when we went 2-1 up against St Mirren. I'm like, there's something about this that I'm like, we're not going to win this, Ken.
Well, funnily enough, we were talking about it. Charlie was sitting with me at that
Aye.
game, and I was saying, I was saying to you, a St Mirren goal's coming when we were 2-1 up, and look at what happened.
You could see it. And I don't know. And I think going back to I know I'm backtracking a wee bit, but going back to how many headed goals did we concede in the league last year? Did anyone ken?
It's none.
None. How many have we conceded this year? Practically all our goals that we've conceded.
Probably -2 or something.
So I think we need to definitely address that side of things as well. But I think hopefully it comes soon. But again, we're leaking goals a lot, which is a concern.
Just to bring it back to the defence as well, I just wanted to add in, obviously Nathan Wood made his debut and it wasn't the debut of dreams, but I seen it's really different from watching it on the telly, by the way, if you're watching it at the game. So I'm probably not as opinionated as you, but I thought he made some good tackles, some dangerous tackles, but it look like a bit of a hard man for what I'd seen. I mean, he was flying into tackles. He looked like a big, strong laddie, but obviously it wasn't the debut of dreams. What was your thoughts on him then? The occasion was too big. We kind of talked about it already, but the occasion wasn't he too big for him? Do you think he just got a wee bit surprised with the tempo of the game and, maybe how good Dundee United were, perhaps?
I'll start off and I'll say, I actually quite liked how he performed. I know it wasn't his best and it's probably not the best we could get him. I was actually all right with him. I thought he put, like you said, he flew into some decent tackles and he did some good stuff. There was a wee bit of skill at points there, but I definitely agree. I think the intensity United were playing with, I think that caught him off guard a bit, because that's not what he'll be used to playing in England. He'll only really be used to that sort of level of physicality getting the Scottish game. But I actually thought he was all right, and there's more to come from him. I think a lot of people maybe think it's a bit controversial. I think when Porteous is back, I'd like to see him and Porteous partner up together. Those two hungry young centre halves that aren't afraid to get stuck in. I think that's good, because I've said it before. We need to change for the old guard, Hanlon and McGregor. I think that's the thing. I think Hanlon, maybe a wee bit of time on the bench for Hanlon just to sort of get.
I don't do that though. He's club captain. There's no way.
I know he's club captain, but you've got to look. I'm just saying this is my opinion, but I'd like to see the two young lads play together, because that's what I think. We've got to get away from the old guard. It'd be good to see those two young centre halves playing together, and both of them, I think Porteous and Wood are very, very similar players in terms of their physicality and their hunger in games. I'd like to see the two of them play together when Porteous is back from suspension. But I thought Wood was all right. He made a few mistakes, but then again, was he forced into those mistakes by what the rest of the team were doing? You've got to look at it like that. But it wasn't the debut he would have wanted, and I know he'll be wanting to improve himself.
Don't think the team helped him out at all with everyone else performed as well.
I think my biggest. Oh, sorry, Jack.
No, on you go, Charlie. I think
he had an all right game. I don't think the slating on social media is justified. I think there wasn't anyone in that team that got past marks. So to pick out Nathan Wood as the weak link was a bit of a strange one for me. But I think the biggest, not frustration, but the biggest question that was on my mind all the time was I think his option as soon as he got the ball was to try and play the diagonal Xabi Alonso pass that never really paid off. I think there was 3 or 4 times where he just pinged out the park. And I think that's maybe because that's what Hanlon does as well. I think when you're a centre-back, you watch how your centre-back partner works and you copy. And I think Hanlon loves that wee diagonal ball, and it works most of the time. But I think for Wood, it just didn't pay off. And but I think he had an all right game. I think obviously you're not expecting him to be a world beater on game 1, so I think it'll take time for him to bleed in. But I agree, Jack. I think we run with him and Porteous in the team might do Hanlon a bit good, might do Porteous a bit good to have a different partner, but I can't see Jack Ross dropping the captain.
It's all theoretical.
Aye.
I was going to add in as well, Neil Warnock came out in the papers this week and he said he wasn't really happy with the transfer that Nathan Wood got to Hibs. His agent, I don't know if any of you seen this, but he was saying that his agent obviously sent him up to Hibs to get game time and that, and he said he's not even started one game. This was prior to the weekend's match there. And he's a bit annoyed because they've got a crisis with their defenders at the moment. They've got, I think it's at Middlesbrough, they've got 500 defenders. So he can't even recall them. He was looking to recall them, but he can't. So
that's a transfer masterclass for whoever pulled that off the Hibs.
That's Warnock's opinion as well, but he's not too happy with the amount of game time he's getting up at Easter Road anyway.
Yeah, but isn't Warnock ever happy? He's not a happy man. He's a very angry man. But no, I actually agreed with what he said. Like, that's a young lad that's got a huge future ahead of him if he can get his big opportunity. Because look at your captain England under 20, and I've seen some weird comments on Twitter like, oh, but under 20 isn't where the elite players play. That explains why like Rio Ferdinand and that used to be good for under 28 now. But I saw somewhere getting capped by England at any level's good. I'm sorry, like I hate to say it as a Scotsman, but they are a good team at every level, for like the youth all the way up to the senior first side. So you know, you're getting capped for England and you're captain England at any level. You're obviously not a crap player, are you? Not all that. Oh, the under 20 isn't where the elite players go. I don't know. Like, are you the England coach? I don't know. But anyway, so I think some folk think they're Pep Guardiola, some of the stuff they come away with. But no, I think as Charlie put it, that's some take. But I didn't agree with any of those comments at all. The lad is good, and I agree with Warnock actually. You know, he's come up here to get game time. He's not getting it, and I think obviously we'll have to play him. I'd actually like to see Daz. I mean, we'll go on to talk about when we talk about Aberdeen. I'd like to see Daz up at Pittodrie. Because mind when we played them,
and the replacement of who
got us third. He was immense. He was immense up at Pittodrie.
For Pittodrie, I will probably come on to in a bit, but for Pittodrie, I'd play Hanlon and McGregor, to be honest.
Because remember, like I said, he was immense against Aberdeen, the game that sealed us third last season.
I know. What message does that send to the young man, to Wood? You know what I mean?
You're right.
To put in a rock in a hard place.
I know Hanlon wouldn't get dropped, but even Wood and McGregor, that would be an interesting combo.
What's to stop us not going three at the back and play Wood, Porteous and McGregor, and then have Doig and Boyle as your wing backs like we did last year and then got us third? I'm surprised he's not resorted back to that formation yet this season.
He might.
It work? He might. Aye. And I think
he's going to be forced into it. Let's be honest.
Oh, definitely.
He's going to be forced into it. One point.
Get injured though. Who's coming on after that?
Well, I could come on. I think
I'll take my boots up with me just in case.
I think if we can find some loophole in the SFA rules, we'll try and get Shannon Leishman on, because I thought if you look at the bench,
we'll
try and find a loophole. Get Shannon Leishman playing.
If you look at that bench for Saturday, Gogic can play centre back. Obviously, I don't think he will play centre back, but that's the only other option. No, I wouldn't either. But that's the only other option we've got, as well as McGregor.
Right, lads.
Sorry,
you go on, mate.
Gogic hasn't covered himself in glory so far this season. So I don't think it's maybe not the best idea. I think keep him to being a midfielder, to be honest, because he's a bit too shaky for me to be put in at centre half.
Aye, that's it. Right, we should move on to the next topic because we're away into the Aberdeen segment already. Right, so obviously at the end of that this week's defeat, Jack Ross came under some criticism, and he said in his interview that we were the worst version of ourselves. We're very slow and lazy and selfish at times. He said that he was obviously happy to receive the criticism because ultimately the blame falls with him. Do you think it's justified, or do you think there's been a massive overreaction on social media?
I'm glad Jack Ross can say it how it was, because it was everything he said. But I think the reaction's totally unjustified. Like, fans are calling for his head. Like, come on.
Yeah,
we're accepting mediocrity for keeping Jack Ross. But I forgot that when we had Colin Calderwood, we were world beaters right enough. But anyway, let's say that I think Jack Ross, the buck doesn't fall at him. To be fair, he put the team out. He doesn't throw the boots on. I think it's the players.
Strong team too.
The players at the end of the day are there to win the game, and they didn't. So exactly. Obviously, he only made one sub, but he never really had that. Was it only one? Aye. He never really had any options, and I think that goes back to the whole recruitment. But I don't think Jack Ross is to blame by any stretch of the imagination.
This is the lowest we've been in the league for over a year. We're 5th place.
You can't, I'm going to give my sort of tuppence worth on all this with Jack Ross, and I don't think you can blame the manager for that. See, if players didn't show up, you could have had Pep Guardiola in that dugout yesterday, and we still on Saturday, and we still would have lost. Because if the players didn't show up and the players didn't try, the manager can't do about it. He can try his best to try and go, come on, lads, you've got to do better. If their heads aren't in it, No point. That's as simple as that. And you can't blame Jack Ross. I love Jack Ross. I'll admit sometimes we didn't do too well, but I think he's a good manager and he provides us consistency. That's what we need. And I think the people calling for his head, it's no football manager, it's no FIFA. You didn't get a wee board rating where you get sacked after if you go into the red or anything like that. It's not like that. And I'm just going to say this now. It's always a certain segment of our fans who accept the mediocrity. What's mediocrity about it? Okay, we've lost one game badly. Well, I'm sure we'll improve. I'm sure we'll learn from it because Jack's that sort of manager. And like I said, I'm a big supporter of Jack Ross, and I'll be happy to admit that. And I think he's been getting a lot of abuse. I saw a lot of abuse as well. And like I said, you get called a happy clapper if you didn't abuse. Well, if you didn't abuse the manager, but if you didn't criticize, if no abusing the manager makes me a happy clapper, then I'm the happiest happy clapper of them all, honestly, because I just don't like that at all. You know, the man's done a lot for us. Like, look at him coming in for Heckenbottom. I've said this before. You know, that's no way to treat the manager, and especially since it was the players. And if folks say, but he picked those players. Do you want to pick the team? It's not an easy job, and I'll say it. It's not like Football Manager. It's not like FIFA. You know, it's such a hard job, and I have nothing but admiration for Jack Ross. I really like Jack Ross. A lot of folk will probably say, "Oh, you love Jack Ross, so he's not going to." You know, I do like Jack Ross, and I think he's a genuine guy as well. And you can tell, like, he gets frustrated when we defeats like that. But like I said, I agree with Charlie. Well done for him for saying that, because I know a lot of managers that wouldn't say that wouldn't come out like that, and I know because. You get ones like Gerrard after their loss to United at Tannadice. Gerrard was all over the place. At least Jack Ross was calm, collected, and said it as he saw it. I appreciate that as well. So, fair play. I think a lot of the criticism is unjustified, and a lot of the abuse. I've got to say this now: if you're abusing our manager, you're not a real fan. I'm sorry. You can criticise, but you didn't need to F and C about it on Twitter. If you're criticising our manager, didn't darken the doors of Easter Road. I mean, abusing. Imagine if you're abusing our manager, didn't darken the doors of Easter Road again. Didn't need folk like that. You can criticise, but you can't abuse. That's all I've got to say on it.
Well said, mate. I think it's an overreaction as well. I think, you know, realistically, it's quite a strong league this year. I think that it's not where we would want to be. But I tell you what, being a Hibs fan and watching Hibs over the years, it's 10 odd years ago, we'd have loved 5th place. We'd have thought that was all right, Ken. And as I said, this is, you know, the lowest we've been in the league in 40 odd games, to the best part of a year. So it's no absolute dire straits. I mean, these things happen. But I think it's a massive overreaction. Well, let's kind of get back into the Aberdeen game. So we're going to play Aberdeen, who are in 9th place. They've not won a game in over 5 games. Last 5, they've lost them all. I'll start with this one. What needs to change? I don't think anything needs to change. I think we just need to get back on the bike and go again. I just think this is just a freak result, a write-off. I think Hibs are a good team. I think Aberdeen are also a good team. I think, you know, they're a winded animal at the moment, and that could be when they're most dangerous. Their fans were singing for Glass's head at the weekend. But they've got good players throughout that team. I mean, they've got the likes of Ken Detling, Gallagher, Scott Brown, that Ramirez guy, the American guy, Johnny Hayes, the Ferguson, Ken. They're not a bad side, but I do think Hibs just need to just put that one behind us and get back on the bike and you know, go at it again.
Yeah. I just looked at their form, mate. They've no won in 11. So with that, well done Aberdeen on your 3 points on Saturday. It's to be honest, mate, it's the perfect time for them to play us, because they usually do beat us at Pittodrie, to be fair. But I think if we're going to win on Saturday, I think we just need to shoot more often. I think that's what I'm going to put it down to. I think we look a bit dejected, devoid of ideas, at times. So I think just maybe even a wee shot here or there. But I think we can go there and beat them, to be honest. I think, especially if they've no won in 11, I think it's a good time for us to play them as well, because we can, you know, we've no won in 3, or 3. We've no won in 3. So I think it's a good time to play them and get back on the winning way. But it's also a good time for them to play us, because we usually go up there and get beat. So I think if we're going to win, I think we need to just take some shots when they come up, when the opportunity arises.
I completely agree with everything the both of you said. I think I wouldn't change anything in the team. Only thing that's got to change is the attitude. I think we've got to go up there and show up. And I agree with Charlie, we've got to shoot more. But I've not got anything to add to that. You've both summed that up perfectly for me. I've covered all the points I was going to say.
I think we've got to just be have a wee bit more of a a wee bit more of an attitude where it's like teams should be scared to play us. We didn't have that about ourselves. We're too nice. I feel like we could be a bit nastier and go up to Aberdeen and think, Christ, we've got to go up there and batter them.
On the plus side, it is away for him. So our away form this season's better than our home form, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
let me check. Let me think.
About 50-50, I think.
I guess it's too early to tell which is better.
Aye.
But
I think hopefully we get it. But you can see it already. Qualifier on Saturday. Aberdeen 2, Hibs 0 or something like that. But
well, listen, it could be worse. You could be undefeated and still no top of the league.
You could also
be undefeated.
Ding dong.
Second place.
You can also slate your City neighbours for celebrating a draw and do the exact same at Ibrox on Saturday. But that's not for me to comment on.
Yeah, that's a different bit. It was all very much like wins with Rangers and Hearts. So, but yeah, we'll move on for that. We didn't want the Rangers keyboard warriors coming out. So
I know, but there's a good line. I've been saying that to my mates. A lot of my mates have been saying, "Do you honestly tell me the truth? Do you think Hearts could win the league?" And I'm like, no.
We've been here before.
You're unbeaten and you're in second place.
We've been here before. I think it was a certain Mr. Craig Levine that was the manager, and they thought they'd won the league in September, and didn't they? Correct me if I'm wrong. They said the 7th or 8th they finished that season. So
and like
we've been here before.
I know, but listen anyway. Enough about them. Right, let's get on to our next segment because this podcast must be on for about freaking hour and a half already. It's been a long one.
If you've not fallen asleep, you get 50% off at the Hibs Club store. That's not official. I didn't care why he said that. Anyway, there you go. You get a free bucket hat.
Jack's playing.
Bucket hat, aye. Use code Gillies to get 10% off.
There you go, aye.
Our next segment, I'm actually looking for this one. Kit numbers, it's kind of died a wee bit of death because, once you get to kit number 30, I mean, there are players that have maybe only made 1 or 2 appearances for the old Hibs. So we'll maybe bring that back later on or maybe just never revisit it again. I don't know. But we're actually moving on to our new segment called Get in the Bucket, which is a wee reference to Jacko's bucket hat. And what we're going to do is sort of put like unpopular opinions, things you want to see in the bin or the bucket, i.e. the hat, just to explain the terminology where it comes from. So I'll kick us off. I've usually got, what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll say something, an opinion each, something that irritates us that we'd like to, with Hibs or in general in terms of football, worldwide, that you'd like to see get in the bucket.
Right, well, I'll start with get in the bucket. Also, I hope the BBC don't sue us for copying them 101 in a minute.
Is that a thing?
Aye.
Yeah, no, I never heard it.
So, Matt, I think the thing that sort of can sort of get in the bucket for me this week is definitely people that call the Bundesliga a farmers' league, and I think I've been very, very passionate about this. Can get in the bucket because the Bundesliga is excellent. Though I don't know why people don't say, and yeah, Bayern win it all the time, but I think it's a high quality league, and German football gets so many things right off the pitch, like ticket prices, the way the fans are treated, and like the atmospheres as well. So I think anybody that calls it a farmers' league, I'd much rather watch Hertha play Augsburg than go to Liverpool against Man United, because I tell you what,
let's say that, Jack. Let's say that.
Atmosphere. I'm saying now, the atmosphere, a relegation battle game in Germany tends to be better than most Premier League games.
Right. Oh, you're right.
So that's it. People that call Germany or call the Bundesliga a farmers' league can get in the bucket.
Get in the bucket. Charlie, what's your one?
Get in the bucket. Here you put me on the spot. I've got so many.
Oh no! Let's try to keep this clean now.
I think get in the bucket, as it was announced last week. 12:30 kickoffs for an Edinburgh derby on a Monday afternoon. Get in the bucket.
Yeah, that's brutal. That is brutal.
And the only reason I say that is because I think it's like, what is it, the 3rd of January or something like that.
It's a bank
What's
holiday.
What's the difference between playing on the 3rd and the 2nd? There's no difference. So for that,
TV right or something, I think.
That's
Sky,
because
here we go. Sky Sports get in the bucket. Then he come back.
Sky Sports.
So
I'll not do the thing again. So I didn't want to mess my hair up, but beyond what it's already been. But no, I agree with that. Like Sky are moving that probably to show Watford against Brentford or something like that instead of an Edinburgh derby. Like, they'd rather show some mid-table Premier League game than an Edinburgh derby on Sky Sports main event.
I hate English football, man. I hate it, man. Right, my one is get in the bucket. Folk that say, well, at least we've got the big TVs after give the tellies a break. The tellies are good. But I see a lot of folks saying that, at least we've got big TVs. It's like, come on, get a rest, man.
That's more than what most teams have.
It's quite interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this, and you know, do you expect more from the players on the pitch? Because see, I would say this last 2 years, Hibs, especially over lockdown and that, I would say Hibs, the media team and that, and like all other aspects of Hibs and other branches of Hibs, like, you know, the social media side, the marketing side, I feel all of that have really upped their game. And it seems like they're doing such excellent work that I think the players on the pitch should be doing really excellent work as well. And I think it's just a wee bit like actually other departments in and around Hibs are actually just doing a much better job than they have in the past. And I think that makes me think that Hibs are better than they are. Don't know what you think.
I agree. But people that say, at least we've got the big screens, it's more than what a certain other Edinburgh team has at their stadium. So, I think the big screens are good. I like them. It's some good entertainment on there. I think should definitely start putting us up on there at half time. Then again, I think more people would be leaving than what happened when United scored their third goal if that happened.
Aye, that place emptied, eh?
What is it? The Beat the Traffic Hibs Supporters Club at it again.
I was part of that on Saturday. Anyway, listen to that.
We can see you sneaking out. I stayed to the end because, mainly because I didn't really want to go home, and partly because I didn't really want. Well, wait, because I couldn't bother waiting for a train. But nah,
I'd off my cap staying to the end of that. But I think the big screen chat, get in the bin. Definitely agree.
Get in the bin. Right. Well, listeners' questions. Simon McKenzie, 1875, friend of the pod, said, I wasn't able to go and didn't watch the highlights. In your opinion, what went wrong and what would you have changed? The lineup information, etc. I think we've kind of covered that, lads.
Well, if I could add something, I would have changed the fact that I didn't go or watch the highlights as well. So well done, Simon, for missing that.
Fair enough.
I would have started me. That's the only thing. I would have changed the lineup. Me and David up front. That would have been a deadly.
I don't think you could have changed anything about it.
I'm joking.
Right, moving on. Andy
sorry, one thing I'd say is like maybe Alan could have played like what I noticed is he was playing too close to Nisbet. If you see what I mean, like he wasn't.
He was also
goes into the gap.
Playing too close to the ref at one point. Did you see that?
I did. That should have been that's a drop ball, by the way, didn't it? Benji, referees have been shocking across all games that I've been at this weekend. Like I was saying before we came on, Edinburgh City keeper, she got sent off for falling onto the ball. I've never seen that before.
No doubt. I think we sort of said it was a very strong lineup in that, and the formation, and that was probably as good as Jack could have put it there. And I think that team was good enough to beat them. I just think it was an off day. Right, Andy Rogers. With injuries and suspensions, are there nothing really on the bench to change anything? Do you think the transfer window was good enough? Personally, I think we should have added more players, hence the Matty departure. Touched on that a wee bit as well, but the bench this week, think we need another striker. The depth at striker isn't good enough for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Poor man, very poor window. Well, not very poor window because we kept some of our best assets, but like
Boyle, I think
Porteous and that, but
probably need another right back, I would say. And I cried out for that in the summer, but
beginning Camden.
No, like I think because they've both been a bit suspect in recent games, but you didn't want to just be like, oh, he's suspect, get another one in. I think they're two good players. I just think Cadden's better attacking than defensively.
and then vice versa with McGinn.
Aye.
One thing I'd say, like I forgot to mention it earlier on, but it's sort of very cheers to Andy for asking that question because it sort of brought it back up for me. Is like we're talking about the bench. I would give some of the lads that are doing well, like how Josh O'Connor doesn't at least get on the bench. I don't know. Because he's doing so well for the under-18s or the under-21s right now. Like he scored, and I think scored against Hamilton, scored against because I keep up to date with like Big Ken Patrick for the Edinburgh Evening News. I've got to give him a shout out because without him I wouldn't have known about our reserves. Like he's been doing so well. How does he not get on the bench when we know we have a sort of shortage in that position? Because I bring Josh on and say you give him 20 minutes in a game or 10 minutes, I'm sure he'd do something productive in that time. So I would say that I would like to see Josh and some of the other academy lads that are doing well get their chances on the bench.
There's a couple of other good. I'm a wee bit wary of Josh O'Connor. I'm no buying into the hype too much. Just personally, I just feel like I've never seen him play once. Like so, Ken, didn't he take anything I say?
That was in a sort of makeshift side. You've got to admit, like that was a mix as teams. Like you know what I mean? Like you're picking lads all over the academy, and there was a few like bench players for the first team, if you see what I mean, in that game. That was a Dunbar game,
Aye, I'm thinking there was
and there was a few trialists in there as well.
Aye, I just feel like he was good, but I feel like there's a lot of folk that got quite frustrated with him because he's quite selfish. In the game I watched anyway, he was shooting a lot for everywhere, which is probably what we need a wee bit. But the young laddie that played up front with him as well, Connor Young, he was a good player. Like
and
he was getting they were at each other, because he was saying Connor was saying to him, pass the ball. And I tell you what, I think you really need to nurture young O'Connor as well because he carries a name. He's a bit of a target on his back with his old man being who his old man was.
Aye.
Even in that game, I've seen a lot of folk leave one on him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
You need to nurture him a wee bit.
There's some lads, like we've let a few young lads out on loan to civil service strollers that have been quite good as well, that I'm sad that we've sort of given their chances because one of the boys, I can't mind his name, we've just let him out, but he played for civil service at the weekend there and actually did really well for them. And I think these lads deserve their shots on the bench because, these are the future generation players. You've got, like look at Ryan Porteous, he's the top example of the academy. And then going over to the women's team, I know it's not really relevant to this point, but going to the women's team, you've got Ailey Adams, Siobhan Hunter. So the academy does provide good players. So you've got to give these boys the chances or else they're not going to develop. Yeah. And at a team like Civil Service Strollers in the 4th Division, you're only going to get so much out of that player.
Aye. I think going to the academy point though, Jack, in the past, maybe 15 years, maybe 20, how many players have come through that academy and have stuck at Hibs?
That's true. But
I can see why they're not getting a chance. But you're right, when we've got a striker issue, Josh O'Connor, get on the bench.
Exactly, because I think the lad will prove himself. I know what Calvin said, but I think there was a bit of that team. He wasn't used to some of the players in that team, and that because it was quite a makeshift lineup for that friendly against Dunbar.
Oh, for sure.
So I think you put him in with guys that he's used to, because he's quite close friends with a lot of the boys in the first team as well, obviously because of his dad and he's a fan and everything. So I think you've got to give him his chance, and I'd love to see it. And I know I'm not just saying it because it's O'Connor, because we'd be going down the Sam Stanton route there at that point, but. He is a decent player, and there is a future star there.
I definitely agree.
Right, Lewis Connor, just one for you, Jack. In terms of the girls' match, thought that was one of the best dominant performances of the season. Could have been double figures. Thought Cav played well. Player of the match for me. So just more of a agreeing rather than a question, just saying that he enjoyed Killick Kavanagh's performance on the weekend.
I think, it's good to talk about the women's team because obviously a lot more positive result, but and plus, everybody knows like how invested I am in the women's team. But Cal was fantastic. I think Shannon Leishman as well. Like Shannon Leishman's an unsung hero in that team. I've talked her up so many times, but she really is. She's a fantastic player, Shannon Leishman. The amount of running she was doing was fantastic. Like she was just, involved in just about anything we were doing well, she was involved in, and she was not afraid to launch herself into tackles. Amy Muir as well, but I agree, Cav, for me, was player of the match. She was fantastic. Like I said, that's why she's called the Ginger Ronaldinho. She's called that for a reason. She's fantastic. Like skill and the sort of pace she has is just fantastic. But I think double figures is going a bit too far. I think double figures is going a bit too far. I would have said we did deserve 4 or 5. The scoreline definitely flattered Aberdeen. Like, Aberdeen were really flat-footed, but I definitely agree. Like I said it earlier on, that is our best performance this season, definitely. You know, and even though the Spartans game was a higher scoreline, this game was our best performance, and it shows what we are capable of as a team. And, you know, going into Hamilton and going into playing Aberdeen again in the League Cup, you know, we've got the opportunities to get big wins there. Like I said, Hamilton, I'm not going to really do a preview as such because, you know, I'd like to announce that Strong Up Hibs will be represented at the Scotland Women's World Cup qualifier. I'll be going to that against Hungary at Hampden, which I'm really excited for. It'll be my first women's national team game, so I'm really, really excited for that.
Oh man,
really excited for that. So obviously there's Hibs in the squad. Rachel Boyle, Amy Muir, and Leah Eddy are all in the squad as well. So hopefully I'll see them get some minutes. And if like Leah Eddy deserves to get a few minutes on the pitch. I'm really sad that Amy Gallagher didn't get called up. I still think she deserves it, but really good to see those girls getting called up, so it'll be great to see. So I just wanted to announce that when we're talking about women's football, that I'll be at the Scotland game, so Strong Ops will be there, and maybe if you're lucky I'll give you a wee review as well. So hopefully a big win against Hungary in the qualifiers, because we're doing quite well in our qualification group as well. We need to keep the goal difference up because Spain are in that group, so it is difficult in terms of Spain, but so I definitely agree with Lewis, but I definitely think double figures is maybe over exaggerated.
A bit far-fetched. Right, last one then, guys, from Paul Mackay. Is James Scott really poor, or is he just not getting played in his natural position? For me, I'll take this one. I haven't seen enough of him to make a comment, but looking at his goal scoring record like we did earlier on, I'm not really sure what to expect, but I would say it's not much.
I will agree, but I also agree that he's not had enough time in the team. To be fair, for what I've seen of him, I didn't buy into it. I was quite excited when we signed him, but there's something about him that just doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence that he'll score. And I know I predicted him to score every week so far, but I don't think it's coming. To be fair, right? I'd love him to score the winner in the semi against the Huns, but
I'd love it. Yes, that would be great. No, but
I've no bought into it.
I'm going to agree with Charlie here. I've not seen enough of him to make a call.
Why'd you never agree with me?
Why'd
you never agree with me?
He's jealous of the beard. Jealous of the beard,
Because the beard is the beard is mighty. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
That's true. That's true.
Beard is mighty, but I've got to say, like, I do agree with, actually, all joking aside, I do agree with both points made, that I've not seen enough of him. Obviously, I don't go to away games, so I didn't see him at the games he played away. And from what I've seen of him at home, he didn't do it. He was a passenger in the Livy game. I was too busy being very, very upset during both the St Mirren and the Dundee United games to care what he was doing. And then against St Johnstone, it was all about Boyle shithousery with drinking Clark's water. So I definitely think that I've not seen enough of him, and he just needs time to adapt. But I agree with Charlie. I can't see him scoring. He said it every week. I've thought it every week. I can't see him scoring.
What we really need to do is we just need to sponsor his home top, and he'll score every week.
But if he does need,
that's a season ticket, mate.
So we're going to start a crowdfunding account and we'll put it on the podcast Twitter. If you'd like to donate any money necessary to get that top, and hopefully it returns the favour, we'll go.
Either that, or I'll be chasing them down the high street with a blooming what do you call it? In a golf club.
I think he'll score soon enough then, Jack.
Aye, so right, lads, that was a very long episode. God, that's some time we've been on this podcast. I think it's about an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's why we should put the three of us together.
That's what happens.
About 2 podcasts for us.
That's what happens when Hibs get pumped, mate. We just have loads to talk about. So.
To be fair, the girls played well. The girls played well.
There you go. That's what happens when
exactly. But no, listen, this will be out on recasting. If you made it to the end of the episode, by the way, tweet us and let us know, because there's probably a few folk
you deserve a medal.
Actually lying dead somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
You deserve an Iron Cross for that. Why did I say the Iron Cross? What's the British version of that? The Victoria. Yeah, exactly. I went a bit Germany again there, but yeah, you deserve a medal for it.
And
on
that
note,
you've lost
on that bombshell. It's time to end.
No, I need a selfless plug before we end. Listen, if you've not had time yet, you can catch our interview with Peter Burt the brand manager at Hibs, the man, the myth, the legend that designed the 3 absolutely outstanding kits this season, and does a lot of class stuff on social media as well. You can head over to Recast and watch that episode. It's only 30 minutes, and it's a really, really good discussion, and it's really nice to sort of see the face behind these wonderful designs that we all love. So go and check that out. Also, you'll find on Recast our interview with Mike from Charleston Battery, one of our partnerships at Hibs. So another great 25-30 minute interview we've done with him, and we'll have got a few more of them lined up. So until next time, come on the Hibs.